While UFC 271 is in the books, Tarps Off MMA, Chris Mancuso here, joined by Frank Bonada. Frank, how's everything over in the UK, buddy? What an event this past weekend.
Yeah, it was great. Somewhat of a lackluster main event, maybe, but
Yeah,
all in all, you really can't complain. You had knockout submissions and some incredible back and forths.
yeah, it was great. You know, Casey O'Neill had her
Mm.
her introduction to getting the booze and saying, if you want me to be the bad guy, I'll be the bad guy. Fuck you. I loved that. There was a lot of great moments within this card. I want to give an honorable mention before we really jump into the fights, but Bobby Green, Frank, just the epitome of violence. Bobby Green, love that dude.
Well, it's the combination of violence and skill. He's a really good fighter, genuinely is, but he also just loves to fight. He pieced up Nasrat Hakparast in just emphatic fashion, and it just got more and more violent as the fight went on. And what a win! And in my opinion, get him in the top 15. He's good enough.
Yeah, definitely. He's ready to take that first, he's ready to take that next step, I believe. But I want to talk here right away. We had a middleweight battle. Jared Cannonier defeats Blonde Brunson. Blonde Brunson gets stopped in his tracks in the second round. I mean, the fight starts. It looks like it's just going to be another night at the office against Blonde Brunson. Second round, though, comes out, and Cannonier, massive finish. Looks like he punched his ticket to be the next guy to fight Izzy. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, exceptional. Like elbowed his ticket to get to the final. Yeah, well, like Jared Cannonier said, he turned Blonde Brunson into Blood Brunson. A lot of people are saying Brunson came out with the perfect game plan, and he really did. That
Yeah, he
first
just got
round.
caught. That was it. I mean, he would like I said, he was executing it beautifully in the first round. I mean, he couldn't have won the first round any more decisively.
And then just the second round, everything changed. The momentum went, and Cannonier started having he started having luck whilst Brunson started just having a weird. It all just went out the window for him, and then that elbow at the end that brought him down was just brutal.
Yeah, it was violent. Cannonier looks like he's getting the title shot according to Dana White. He's not going to say no to him. You think that's the right call?
Yeah, I mean, he is the number one contender. Like, there's no one else in that top 5. Who else? Vittori, Costa, obviously
Well,
Whittaker's.
Strickland might have got his way into the top 5 after that 5-fight win streak. He's probably the only guy that has even a legitimate argument, but you're right. Cannonier, if he beats Brunson, which he did, pretty obvious next guy up choice. The thing that gets weird is, Marvin Vittori and Sean Strickland, really good friends, probably would take more money than the UFC wanted to pay, or it would have to be for a title for those two to fight. I've seen Strickland say that before. You think maybe a Strickland and Whittaker fight could be on the horizon, something like that?
I'd actually like to see that. It's not a fight I've sort of considered before, but both very good strikers with very different styles. I would love to see that. I'd also like to see Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. Just imagine how how angry Costa would get if Costa ever fights at middleweight again.
Yeah, I don't know if Costa's going to be allowed to fight at middleweight again after what happened. I know Dana was really mad, said he was staying at 205, but
But he's
everything
still in the
gets said.
rankings.
Yeah,
Five,
that's what I
so.
mean. Things get said in the moment that are heated, and then an opportunity comes up. Like, imagine Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa selling a fight. They'd be ready.
Brilliant.
Costa would be ready to kill him by the time the face-off happened. He wouldn't like some of the rhetoric that he's known for saying. But I want to jump into some good rhetoric, because we had a battle of the good guys, in my opinion, at heavyweight. Who doesn't love Derrick Lewis? Hilarious. And up-and-comer Tai Tuivasa, the shoey, gets it done, knocks out Derrick Lewis in the second round. Brutal elbow finish as well. First off, I'm going to give you my perspective on it. Derrick Lewis, has that performance against Dawkins, but it almost felt like they were having these exchanges and trading. And it was like Lewis, like in that exchange, which led to him getting knocked out, it was like something snapped in him, and he was just like, he was going out brawling or dying on his shield, and he died on the shield. You know what I mean? Did you notice that just kind of switched, and he just started being real careless and kind of being reckless, and then Tuivasa ended up putting the elbow on his chin, and it was he wasn't okay, Derrick Lewis. That was a rough one.
I feel like it could have been even in that the first sort of time when Lewis really hurt Tuivasa, and like he actually had him like half down the cage, just landing shots, and Tuivasa just stood up, and instead of like trying to like circle out, escape, he just swang right back. And at that point, I think Lewis is like, "Oh, this guy doesn't have as much respect for my power as most people normally do,"
Yeah.
and maybe that is that switching mentality that made him want to just like go trade punches and ultimately led to his downfall.
Yeah, it's tough. And, to see Derrick Lewis again fight in front of the H-Town home crowd and
Yeah.
again come up short was rough for me. Guys, I want to let you know right now, Tarps Off Fight Club on Discord. Hit that link in the description. We are here talking UFC 271, myself and Frank Bonada, but we always have the combat sports talking at all times. Frank, my apologies. I'm all excited about that heavyweight division. And I do want to say, like, Tai Tuivasa, it was a big jump for him. He was 11th ranked coming into this
Yep.
fight, fights Derrick Lewis at 3.
Mhm.
What's next for Tai Tuivasa? I've seen people throw out the name Curtis Blades. I've seen people really put out the name Cyril Gahn. I think where do you see what's next for Tai Tuivasa?
I want to see when Tom Aspinall sparks Alexander Volkov at the UFC London. I want to see Tom Aspinall versus Tai Tuivasa headliner fight. Just imagine that. Just
That would be
two.
wild, dude. Aspinall and Tuivasa. I didn't, what's funny is I was looking at everyone because Aspinall obviously has his fight, but that's next month, right? It's like,
Yeah.
of course, that's in the realm of possibilities. Heading into this, I didn't even think about that. That's a great option. I get the feeling that they're gonna push Tuivasa. I think they're really trying to push him ahead.
Yes.
I think the UFC sees the potential in him, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him thrown into a fight against someone like Gahn, but we'll
Yeah.
see. I think for him, he should fight another guy, maybe even two before. I mean, you saw the class difference between Gahn and Derrick Lewis as well, right? It was maybe even a little more extreme than Tuivasa and Lewis. So I think if you're Tuivasa, you want to get a couple more fights under your belt before you really try to tackle that beast, maybe one more. And I think Aspinall is a great option.
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, it just sort of depends because if you look at the heavyweight landscape right now, Ngannou's probably going to be out for a minute now because he's injured, and also obviously the contract negotiations.
Situation, yeah.
Yeah. So then you potentially got Miocic versus John Jones. Does that leave Cyril Gahn out?
Right.
maybe
And that's an interesting spot for Cyril Gahn because it's like Tuivasa just crushed Lewis. Blades hasn't, I don't think he
Blades
deserves.
is booked to fight Jairzinho Rosenstruck. I
Yeah, he's
think.
fighting Georgina
Yeah.
Rosenstruck. So I mean,
So
yeah, it's
we'll
like
see
you're
how
gonna
that
sit
goes.
here and wonder what's gonna happen. I mean, Tuivasa and Gahn might just get put together based on a matchups
Yeah.
game. But I like your idea of Aspinall. If Aspinall gets that
I would
win
love that.
in front of the home fans, he could be punching his ticket to a big fight because that's a huge fight. Like you said, that's a main event fight, in my opinion. You could put Tuivasa and Aspinall on the top of any one of those UFC Fight Night cards, and they would do quite well. Speaking of doing quite well, Isreal Adesanya gets the win again. Improves his record to 22-1 now. He's the king of the middleweight division once more. But I gotta say, the excitement factor was about a 3 out of 10 in that fight.
Round 1 was good. He dropped him, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be like more of the first fight." And yeah, is it a case of it being like capital T technical? Like
Yeah, it was like
you've got to think these two guys are at the very apex of this division. There's no one near as good as either of them.
no, they're the top two guys, quite like you see in the welterweight division with Usman and Colby, right? I think that's kind of the same vibe, that there is a big difference from 2 down to 3. And Whittaker gave him a hell of a fight. I know a lot of people that had it scored for Whittaker winning. I know that was a bit of a controversy. I heard Chael Sonnen and a few other analysts say it too, but no chance. I didn't see that at all. I thought only one judge. I know it was 48-47, 48-47, and 49-46. I had that 49-46 all day long for Isreal Adesanya. I thought he dropped the 5th round.
Yeah.
I see the argument maybe for the 2nd round. It was kind of a nothing round. I don't like to use that term too
Yeah.
often, but not a whole hell of a lot happened in that round. And but for people to say that Whittaker won 3, 4, and 5, like that's their argument. I don't even like, especially with 3 and 4, I don't even understand. Like I could watch that fight 1,000 more times and I wouldn't be able to explain to you how Robert Whittaker wins that fight.
2 judges gave Robert Whittaker round 4, I'm pretty sure.
Which is
So,
crazy to me.
yeah, me too. And also Mike Beltran, the ref with the massive beard, he was
Yeah.
one of the judges on that panel, bizarrely enough, and he was the only judge who didn't give Robert Whittaker the last round. So I don't know what that tells you, but
That tells you that he's got a better eye than a couple guys on that committee, probably because he's used to being right up in the action, maybe understands it a little more. But I thought it was a clear 49-46.
I agree.
Just in my opinion. The middleweight division, like we were just touching on earlier, it's log jammed in a sense that Izzy's starting to go through the lapping stage of the division. Obviously, Cannonier is going to get the shot here. Probably will happen, my opinion, probably June, July time.
June is what they're targeting, isn't it?
They're targeting June, yeah. How do you like that matchup for Cannonier initially?
I don't like it for Cannonier. I like I said, both Izzy and Whittaker are so far above the rest of the division. I honestly think that. I don't think Sean Strickland would fare any better against Adesanya. I just think he's better. Maybe if Hamzat finally makes his way up, maybe.
I think a lot of what Whittaker did to at least keep Isreal uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable in that fight. We didn't see it set in. He was switching to southpaw, switching stances, looked uncomfortable at times. Sean Strickland has some of the best footwork, especially defensive footwork when it comes to his boxing. His strikes against percentage is the lowest in the middleweight history. He's got a great takedown defense. I know it's a PR nightmare to strap the belt on that guy if you're the UFC, and especially like his behavior at the last event was insane. He was even more turned into the Strickland than usual. But I think if he could come out and get a victory over another good opponent, I like I said, I don't think him and Vettori are going to fight, but someone along the lines, maybe they could get Rockhold back out of bed for that one if he gets healthy or something. I do think if Izzy gets through Cannonier and Strickland wins his next fight, I mean, he's obviously just based on the division has to be the guy that gets a shot.
Yeah, no, I it makes sense to me. I just think back to like even the Hermansson fight most recently against Strickland, and Hermansson, he's a grappler first and foremost, isn't he? But he chewed up Sean Strickland's lead leg with the leg kicks. And it's not his specialty, but he was landing them at will.
And that's what would be Izzy's game plan for sure. He would have to hack away that front leg.
Izzy broke Paulo Costa with leg kicks.
Yep.
He broke him. And I don't think Paulo Costa's ever been finished apart from that fight. And part of it was just the crippling leg kicks that he was landing. And I think Sean Strickland would just get chewed up to shit. And whilst I do think Strickland is a great boxer, I don't think he's a particularly good kickboxer. I think Isreal Adesanya is possibly the best we've ever seen. Even obviously, you've got Anderson Silva and a few other names in there, but he's one of the best. Then
one of the best for sure. Yeah, that's a fine statement. Yeah, he's one of the best kickboxers in mixed martial arts history, no doubt. And he proved again. The fights aren't always going to be pretty. I know Stylebender gets the flash and the expectation that comes into the noise that he provides around his fights, but that was a dog fight. It wasn't very exciting from a fan's perspective, but like in any sport, sometimes you got to win those ugly games, and he won that ugly fight, and he moves on to Cannonier.
The only thing is, his last 3 fights have all kind of followed that same narrative. They've all been a little bit dull, a bit lackluster, sort of missing that flash that made him the last Stylebender when he first came to the UFC. I know they're against top-level opposition, but, Vettori, Blachowicz, and now Whittaker, they've all been a bit like he's almost cruising or sparring. He's winning rounds, great, but
nothing too crazy exciting, like you said, he's winning rounds, he's finding ways to win fights. Great for your legacy to do that. When you look back at things, that's a smart play. Now, next weekend we do have UFC Fight Night, Dos Anjos and Faizav. Obviously, we lost that that fight off the hop. So it's Johnny Walker and Jamal Hill main eventing next weekend. How do you see that light heavyweight tilt going?
Jamal Hill, I like his boxing. I think he's really good at striking, and Johnny Walker is unpredictable and he hits hard, but he's not too coordinated. And I just think Hill will mess him up.
I think Hill's going to give him all sorts of problems on his feet. I think it's going to be overwhelming for Johnny Walker. No disrespect to Johnny Walker, but I kind of agree with your assessment. Little scattery in there at times. And I think Hill is really well put together, really well-rounded fighter. Like you said, fantastic boxer. And I think he'll give him a whole shit ton of problems. And at middleweight, the co-main event, Julia Marquez returns to the octagon to fight Kyle Dawkins. So that's a pretty big middleweight fight there. I know Marquez is 9-2, and I think Dawkins is 10-2, these two. So quite similar in stature as well. Should be a pretty even fight.
Yeah, that's a rough card though. Now that it's lost RDA versus Fiziev, which was a great fight. The thing is though, it's not that bad a thing, because now you look at UFC 272 and we've suddenly got a 5-round co-main event between RDA and Fiziev, and that event has gone from a little bit lackluster to suddenly, oh shit.
Now that UFC 272 got a hard upgrade, and the Apex for this card kind of got the slash down a little bit, but if it makes a pay-per-view stronger in the end, I'm all for that. Yeah, that's what you want to see, right? The big fights, the big lights, the pay-per-view, all that. If you're the UFC, who cares? Just bump it back and do what you got to do there. Any other fights that catch your eye coming up this weekend? I know Parker Porter is fighting Bordeaux, or how does he say that?
Yeah, Bordeaux. Parker Porter's, he's always fun. Jim Miller's on the card.
He's fighting Nicholas Mota.
Yeah. I believe Miller currently holds the record for most finishes or possibly KOs in UFC history, and he's looking to extend that for another one. So Jim Miller's always fun. And then there's also just the
Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan, which is just going to be violence.
Yeah, that fight is honestly one of like you said, violence. I think that has like a $50K bonus potential attached to it. I think you can see a violent ending to that fight, guys. But Frank, that's all the time we got today at Tarps Off MMA. We'll be back this weekend on our live streams. I believe that Amir Khan is boxing this weekend. We got the UFC Knuckle Mania 2 and for bare knuckle. Julian Lane, Let Me Bang Bro, is fighting Mike Perry. So it's like a glorified bum fights episode, I guess.
It'll be a laugh still. It'll be fun.
It'll be fucking hella funny, dude. It's hilarious. That's the fight they have headlining the event, where they have a couple title fights. And
is Chad Mendes on that card as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mendes is making his BKFC debut. So, I mean, there's a lot of good fights on that card. Britton Hart fights, a couple title fights, the Lane fight. It should be interesting, man. So there's a whole shit ton of combat sports action to be watched this weekend, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Tarps Off on all the social media platforms. Make sure you click that Discord link in the description, and we're out of here. Frank, thanks for joining us, buddy.